Welcome to Eternal Elements Learning Podcast brought to you by Atyasa Online. These podcasts are a part of the audio certificate programs on Atyasa Online. You're free to take these podcasts on your desired portal also, should you only wish to learn on the go. Thank you so much for engaging on these podcasts, and you can connect with the author on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Hi, this is Niket Karajagi. Welcome to Season 8. We're talking about international business on Eternal Elements brought to you by Just Online. And I'm talking about the final two facets of determining whether to move into a particular country and expand our operations. And they are the environmental factors and the legal factors. I shall discuss the legal factor first. It's important to understand that each country has its own regulations, own laws, and they may also have agreements with other countries in terms of the law. And you'll have to study the international law and the domestic law very, very carefully. You must also understand that there are certain countries where the law would be favoring the local residents and the local companies, and therefore you may want to be a little careful there, or you may want to work out a contractual agreement which is into a third country, if not your own home country. So please do study the legal system. And in legal system, there are two aspects. One is the domestic laws, which are more to protect the home country interests. And then you have the international law, which are legal agreements between the countries. And these are international laws under which countries tend to operate and get very difficult to violate because there are procedures and code that has been established. I sincerely request you that look at the laws pertaining to how you operate in that particular land. What are the labor laws? What are the trademarks and patent laws? What are the copyright laws? How are the treaties enacting between you, your host country, and your home country? Because it's three parties in play right now. And when you do that, you understand whether it's going to be feasible for you to run your operations or not run your operations. My experience as an international consultant has been that if the local laws are not conducive for operating, it is best not to really operate in that country, because legal aspects of business are very, very critical. You might also want to study the contract law of that particular country, because the contract law also decides how is it that you're going to be executing your business, how are you going to be accountable to the system in that country. Certain countries have legal systems which are very clearly defined, and certain countries have legal systems which are flawed. They could be based on the individual's whims and fancies, and this is typically when countries are run by dictators. Certain countries will have law and a legal system which is based on the religious ideologies, and you might want to study that also very carefully, because you can't hurt the religious ideologies of that country. Legal systems define regulations, and therefore the environmental laws also become very, very important. Please do ascertain whether the service or the manufacturing process that you're setting up is in accordance with the environmental laws of the country. And let's also understand, the more stringent the environmental laws, the more expensive it gets to run the business there. I am not suggesting that we pollute the environment, but I'm suggesting that you must study the environmental regulations before you decide to venture in there, because your cost of setting up operations and cost of running operations will depend upon the environmental regulations. The more stringent they are, the more expensive it would be to run the operations. So as an international business person, it's very important to look at the legal aspect of doing business and also look at the environmental aspect of doing business, because that's how you will be able to determine what your profits are. Because ultimately, whenever you are operating in a foreign land, your prime motivator is to get in and generate profits. And one last thing, if the financial system of the country does not permit you to remit your profits back into the home country, that means if repatriation of profits is not permitted, if the tax laws and treaties don't exist, it would be extremely difficult to run that operation, because you will run that operation and you will not be able to take home any money. You'll have to park that money in the country itself. Now that's your decision whether you want to do that. But please do take this up as a part of your planning and evaluation process. Very critical to study the legal systems, very critical to study the environmental system, and very, very critical to look at the laws pertaining to the financial aspect of business. You may also want to look at whether the law permits you equity partnerships. You may also want to look at whether the law permits you and to what percentage and degree does it permit you to put in your foreign direct investment and exercise control on the company. These are the aspects, which are the legal aspects and the environmental aspects. Thank you very much. This is Niket Karajagi signing off from this podcast. I am done with the pestle model. I discussed the political scenario. I discussed the economic scenario. I discussed the social aspect of international business. I discussed the technology. And in this podcast, I discussed the environment and the legal system. Thank you very much for engaging with me on these podcasts. I'm really humbled, and I would request you to engage with the subsequent podcasts because I'm going to take you into some interesting dimensions of international business. We're going to talk about some aspects of international business which are now beyond this. It's about how do we set up operations, how do we conduct operations. We're going to talk about a whole lot of things that happen in international business. So thank you very much. This is Niket Karajagi signing off from this podcast. I'll see you in the next podcast. Stay tuned, stay connected, and we should definitely carry this journey of international business forward. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.